Greiner's growth model, or the model of growth proposed by L.E. Greiner, Larry Greiner. It's a very interesting model. Uh, Human beings are born, and animals are born, and if they don't die and get normal food and nourishment and water and air, they grow. That growth is almost natural or automatic. I mean, it happens without you knowing, involuntarily. Nature takes care of it. Your biology takes care of it. You are not planning, it just happens. I was born and I am today this. I mean, you grow to a certain age, your height grows, your weight grows, at least till 18, 21 or something. So, till 18 or 21, it happens automatically if I don't die and if I get food and water and air, even in case of animals. So, that is almost involuntary, spontaneous, automatic, or natural. But that is not the case when it comes to business organizations. It's very interesting to note the differences. Organizations are not like human beings that once somebody launches a startup, it will just keep on growing. It is not unidirectional that you are small. There is a plant, there is a seed, you give it fertilizer and gets proper sunlight and food and air and all that nutrients from the soil and water, and it becomes a sapling and a plant and a tree. The mechanism, the code is in the genes, the DNA itself. Organizations don't have this growth DNA or growth genes or growth hormones. So organizations grow very differently, or they don't grow, and they can die or stop growing and even die. So Greiner's model is very interesting to study. The first phase of growth happens, let's say there is a young entrepreneur, he starts a business or a company, and he is passionate, he has got a good idea, he works hard, and he succeeds. It's a very small organization, a small startup. He starts the business grows, he works hard, he has good ideas, his own personal passion and everything helps him. Maybe a very small team is there, and he grows. Right? Business is started and business grows. After a certain point of time, there will be a crisis. Greiner called it the crisis of leadership. The crisis happens because the entrepreneur has limitations. You only have 24 hours in a day, and how much can you work? You need sleep and all that. So it is basically personally driven. The growth is driven by him. He is the founder, he is the entrepreneur, he is the main guy, he is running the show, and the team is either there or not there or very small, just helping him out. The focus is on him. He is driving the whole thing forward. So he has limited energy. He is a human being after all. He is not Superman or God or something. So he'll grow because he will simply not be able to reach everywhere and do everything that is required. He doesn't have the capacity to do everything himself, reach every customer, and enough capacity to produce or to sell and all that. So that is the first crisis, the crisis of leadership. The leader is unable to lead everywhere himself, and he is the only one guy in his team, a small team or a non-existent team, one-man army kind of a thing. So this is the first crisis. So if you do not solve this crisis or resolve this crisis, your growth stops. So the first phase of growth happens, self-led entrepreneurial growth, and it stops because the entrepreneur can't manage everything himself. I mean, there is a limit to what he can do. A human being having limitations. That is the first crisis. So some people do not go beyond this stage and they get stuck there, or then it's over for them, or maybe they survive there for some time but they don't go to the next level of growth. If some people manage to overcome this or resolve this crisis, then only they can go to the next phase of growth. They do it, the entrepreneur does it by recruiting the right kind of people that he needs to grow. He can't do it himself, so he needs a team. But he has to build a team, he has to attract the right kind of people, he has to be able to retain them, he has to be able to motivate them, he has to be able to work with them, they have to be able to deliver that he wants, what he wants. Only if he builds a sufficiently large team, if he's able to build that team, then growth again goes to the next round. There is a next phase of growth, and the company grows, the business grows, because now he's not alone, he's supported by a good team. So another phase of growth, a growth spurt happens. That would happen only if he's able to manage the first crisis of leadership, and he's able to recruit and induct people and all that. So then there is another round of growth. Then again there is a crisis. That's called the crisis of autonomy. Because what happens is that still he's the founder, he's the CEO, he's calling the shots. He has a team, but basically decisions are still centralized. The structure is centralized. He is calling the shots. He is running the show. There is a team of managers or executives, but the decisions are still made by him. Power and authority still resides in his personality, or are centered in his office. So the team starts feeling suffocated. They say that, look, we are managers in name only, we don't have any authority, we don't have any responsibility, we can't take decisions on our own, we don't have any power. So though we are there, we are supporting you and all that, but you are not utilizing our potential fully. We are hamstrung because you are not allowing us to fully develop our capabilities. You are not developing, using all our capabilities, because you are still calling the shots and controlling us. So this crisis comes again, crisis of autonomy, the demand for autonomy. The team members want to be autonomous. They want some decision making ability and power and authority, some responsibility to do things themselves. They don't want micromanagement from the top. So they want decentralization, they want empowerment, they want delegation to happen. The boss is calling all the shots, controlling the reins. Now they are unhappy with it. They are saying that, look, this is it. I mean, we can't take you further. So this is the crisis of autonomy. Many organizations get stuck here, and they are unable to solve this crisis, and they get stuck there, and maybe they survive, or maybe they decline from there, or whatever. So they can't go to the next orbit of growth. So this is another crisis, and you may or may not be able to resolve this. Again, if you are smart enough, or if you are capable enough, if you understand, and if you are able to make those necessary changes, you can grow further. That is provided you loosen up a bit, you loosen the reins a bit, you are able to delegate, you are able to decentralize, you are able to empower your people. You are saying, fine, I'll give you some decision making powers and response authorities. I'll let you take decisions by yourself. You don't have to ask me for everything. You don't have to take my approval for everything. I'll give you power. So then the team is happy. He is unleashing their potential. The team members are performing per their potential. So their capacity gets actually added to the capacity of the entrepreneur, or the founder, or the boss, or the CEO, and the next round of growth starts happening, and the company or the business grows further, organizations grows further. Okay, fine, goes on. Another crisis will come. That is the crisis of control. What has started happening is that the entrepreneur has made people autonomous, and now what starts happening is that everybody starts getting a sense of importance, and then all these team members have their own egos and all that, and they can't work in a team. The cohesion is lost. There is internal competition. It's like sun has a chariot. In Hindu mythology, we have the sun god. He has a chariot drawn by 7 horses. Now each horse tries to take the chariot in a different direction. Then the chariot can't go because the horses are fighting among themselves. So this could happen when all the number 2 leaders start becoming too important, too big for their boots. They start fighting among themselves. My branch is more important, my department is more important. There is internal conflict and rivalry and competition among and between the departments, between branches, between profit centers, between business units, between individuals, among individuals. So competition more competition, more rivalry happens rather than collaboration. So then there is a crisis for control. Everybody wants to take the organization in his direction. Everybody has become empowered and autonomous. So he starts to pull it in his own way. Somebody else pulls in a different way. One guy wants to go northwards, one guy wants to go southwards, somebody wants to go towards the east, somebody wants to go towards the west, and the boss is helpless. He is unable to control these. He has made them powerful, and now these guys are challenging his authority. So there is this crisis of control. He is unable to control his show, and there is a sense of rebellion, and he is unable to control this thing. And so there is another crisis. Now you can, again, this is a phase, this is a crisis. So either you get stuck there, or you decline from there, or things just fall apart or disintegrate or whatever, and you can't really grow or go to the next level unless you resolve this crisis. Again, everybody is unable to go beyond this stage. Some of them are able to do it because they are able to assert their authority. They put their foot down and say, hey, I am the boss, enough is enough. You guys have been pampered now. I empowered you, but now it looks like you are pampered, and I am going to pull the reins in a bit. You are trying to re-establish your control, and you are as successful at re-establishing controls. You are able to, put people in their places, and people start listening to you. You assert your authority, you take care of the whatever rebellion or mutiny or internal fighting and infighting and all that. You are able to resolve it, and people start listening to you, and you re-establish control and all that, and then you grow, because now again you have got a semblance of control. The fighting and all that has subsided, which was counterproductive. Now people are able to work together because you have started putting your foot down, establish necessary controls, and you grow further. So that's the next phase of growth. Again, what is happening is that there is another crisis, and Greiner called it the crisis of red tape. While you were earlier, you had loosened the reins. Now you have stepped in and again tightened the reins and pulled in the reins. While doing that, you have put back controls that you had loosened. Now you have put them back. Maybe you have overdone that. Generally that tends to happen. You can't have a mathematical kind of a thing. So maybe you made it too tight, maybe you made it too bureaucratic, maybe you made too many procedures. Again, there is a lot of approvals, and they can't just do it the way they want. They have to come to you, and certain decisions have to be taken by you and all that. Otherwise you can't control it. So while trying to control it, you have put in some mechanisms which are becoming like red tape, bureaucratic, and that is again stifling the growth of the organization. So what do? Again, it becomes like a big, large bureaucratic organization with too many rules and procedures and government sort of a thing. A public sector, inefficient public sector unit, not all are like that, but some are like that. So again, you get stuck there, you become slow, you are not competitive, and you can't grow. Others are smarter, faster, more agile, more nimble, and you have become a large bureaucratic company full of red tape and rules and regulars and procedures and whatnot. So again, there is that crisis of red tape, and you can't grow further or develop further. Right? So again, you get stuck there, survive there, or decline from there. If you want to grow, then again you have to loosen up. Again, you have to simplify. You have gone overboard towards red tapeism. Now you have to cut down on the red tape. You have to say, oh, we made it too tight. Now let us remove the unnecessary controls. Let us simplify some procedures. Let's not have so much of control. Earlier, I gave you power, then I took away power. Now I have to again find the right balance of controls and approvals and autonomy, flexibility versus rigidity, autonomy versus control, and all that. So some procedures are necessary, some control is necessary, some control is overdoing it, so just get rid of that. Some procedures are too bureaucratic, let us do some re-engineering and get rid of all this red tape. All this bureaucratic stuff is not necessary, only this much is necessary. If you are able to loosen a bit, simplify a bit, re-engineer some of it, then you will grow further. So this is the Greiner model of growth. At every stage, there is a crisis. And only if you overcome that crisis, you go to the next round. So growth is not unidirectional. You have to have restructuring. Whenever there is a crisis, you have to do some restructuring, either because of a reaction or as a proactive thinking, as a part of proactive thinking. Now, at what point does this happen? It is not easy to quantify that this will happen at 10 crores and this will happen when your size is 50 crores or 20 crores or 200 employees or 1,000 employees. There is no mathematics for this. But this is a logical process that an organization would be passing through such phases. It's quite possible that you pass through such phases. So it is not a given. Growth is not a given. You will have to restructure and keep on restructuring. You do restructuring, you do well, then another round of restructuring as required by the situation, another round of growth, another crisis, another round of restructuring. At each stage, restructuring needs are different, the mechanism is different, the purpose is different, the process is different. So you have to think, you have to keep thinking. It is not that I pressed a button and it will go on for 100 years. In 3 years, I'll have to do something else. In 5 years, I'll have to do something else. In 10 years, I'll have to do something else. In 15 years, I'll have to do something else. And at each stage, I'll have to do something different. What is that stage? When will that stage come? Nobody can really mathematically, precisely, establish norms. But this does happen. And you have to be alert for this, or you can't grow. So you can't assume that it will be happening like a human being grows. So there is a difference between a human being or an animal and a business organization. A business organization does not grow unidirectionally. What helped you in the first phase, the strategy has to be different in the second phase. The same strategy and the same structure won't work. You might have to rethink, realign, restructure, re-strategize. The strategy and the structure that worked for you in the beginning would not work for you later on, may again work for you later on, may again not work for you later on. So at each stage of crisis, of growth, you have to maybe think about a new structure and a new strategy. First a strategy, then a structure. So this is so at each stage of growth, there is a crisis. After a certain stage of growth, there is a crisis, and one has to think of a new strategy perhaps and a new structure to get to the next level of growth, or you get stuck there and maybe you decline thereafter. So this is a very interesting model, Ellie Greiner's growth model, which every organization should be mindful of. The timeline we don't really know. I mean, nobody can know for sure that my organization is facing this particular crisis or it is in this phase of growth. That has to be, for each organization, it has to be identified on a case-to-case basis. You can't have a general rule that everybody is going through this. Each organization would have to be studied to identify whether it is going through this phase or has reached this crisis. But this is the framework can be applied to different organizations. Which part of framework you are on or which part of the curve you are on, you have to figure out for yourself. But the general ideas of the framework can be useful. Thank you.